It's the Introvert Dating Success Podcast, the show for introverted men that's all about learning how to attract beautiful women and still get your precious alone time. And now, here's your host, dating coach and fellow introvert, Harry Wilmington.
Hey guys, hold on a second. Faux pas on me. Hi guys, welcome to the Introvert Dating Success Show. I'm your host as always, Harry Wilmington. This is the show where you go to learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thank you for joining me today. We have a lot to cover. The main topic is going to be at some point talking about a major talking mistake that I believe a lot of men are making that you yourself may be unaware of that you're doing, that is causing women that would actually date you to get turned off. And I want to make sure you're not doing this thing. So we're going to talk about that a little bit later in the show. First off, as always, there are some comments that I got on some videos over the course of the last week that I want to be able to answer. And also, this show is ultimately about you guys. So if you have a dating question, a situation you're going through of some kind that you want to ask me, I charge a lot for coaching on my website. So if you want to get some free advice here today, just leave your question in the chat and I'll be happy to answer it for you on this broadcast. As always, guys, if you want more of my help, you can go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. We have ebooks there, programs, various things to help you out that are designed to make sure that we're able to guide you on the right path towards being the best dater you can possibly be. So that way you can attract the women that you want and your authentic self. So also of note, if you've heard the songs at the beginning of the program, I have an album out called Kevin Samuels Was Right. So it's 10 tracks that just go through the ins and outs of relationships and dating and stuff like that. It's a real fun album. You can check that out at the website as well. So with all that said, let's go ahead and start getting into some of the comments that I got from this past week. Like I said, you guys have any comments of your own, leave them in the chat. So first thing I want to cover is there was a guy that left a comment under my video that I did called "With Time, You Will Forget About Her." And in that video, I basically talk about how, when you are liking a woman, it's very easy to get caught up in the idea that you want to be with her and that if she rejects you, it's going to be the worst thing ever and you're not going to get over it. And that I've discovered just being older that with time, you end up forgetting about the people that you once had like the world-ending crush on, And so this guy responded and said, "Rejection is fine, but when rejection is paired with insane levels of disrespect that seemingly come out of nowhere, where you were invested in helping them with their career, you thought you were friends, then after what seems like a minor disagreement, all of a sudden out of nowhere, boom, they hit you with some dumb stuff like giving your number out to a guy to threaten you and tell you not to contact you anymore. Then when you confront them about it, they lie, gaslight, and pretend like they had nothing to do with it. Then when you show proof that they did it, they brush it off like it's not a big deal, then make subtle jabs about the death." And this is a guy I responded to earlier about this woman. Basically, he'd been there for her, and then when his dad died, she wasn't there for him. And so he felt some kind of way about that, obviously. He says, "I feel like that kind of rejection is different. At the time of the incident, I didn't even contact her enough for that to even be necessary. The whole thing felt like a gaslight, kind of like when a woman pretends like you're calling them obsessively when you called and texted them once or twice." So he actually had more commentary under this comment that was very, very long. And so I don't want to put all that up here, but suffice to say, he basically feels as though, rejection hits differently basically when you've done all this stuff for a person and the way that they responded to you was to not be there for you and to be extremely disrespectful. And to that, I say this, is that, yes, that is a higher level of rejection and it sucks and you still got to get over it. Because here's the thing about dwelling on rejection, right? Is that it builds resentment. And you feeding into this resentment that you have for this other person only poisons you. It doesn't poison the other person who's been, I think this guy said this was like 2 years ago, and he's still festering on the fact that this girl rejected him the way that she did and that she was disrespectful and how she be that way. And his mind is trying to constantly question, how could a person that I cared so much for and showed so much love to treat me in this way? And the realistic part is that sometimes we don't get the answers to that. And your brain has to get used to being okay with that. Because what happens if you don't is you continually put out the energy of resentment. And other women you try to get with are going to feel that. It doesn't allow you to move on realistically from that situation where you're always dwelling on it. And so you're so mad about what she did to you, you're not realizing, A, that was just, she showed you undoubtedly that she was not a person you should even get with. So at this point, continuing to think about that person and dwell on their rejection. And because what your brain's trying to do is just trying to fix the situation that can't be fixed. Because it's thinking, what's the logical way that I could have made this person treat me better? Why does she feel like I deserve that in the first place? And the reality is some people are just going to be out for themselves. And a lot of people in general care more about how they feel about things and worrying about their own self-interest than what you have going on. So it sucks that you had to date this girl for a long time before you realized that she was not going to be there for you in the long term. But it's still better that you found that out early versus like if you get married to her and then you find that out and then you got to break up and go through the courts and go through paperwork and go through legal proceedings. Like none of that happened. But yeah, just because the rejection was a little bit harsher, it doesn't take away my same sentiment, which is that at the end of the day, you trying to continually think about this other person is only hurting you. It's not hurting the other person. It sucks to say they are not thinking about you in that capacity anymore. They don't care if they hurt your feelings. And so is it worth you continuing to give energy to a person that didn't want to continue to give energy to you? That's where I come from, because, hey, and here's the other thing too, that I think people don't realize, right, is that she did a horrible, awful thing, right? If we are all realistically looking at ourselves, we have all at some point in our lives done something to another person that maybe we did it unintentionally, but we brought harm to them, we wrecked their world, we changed their life, and we might not have meant to have done that. We might have been thinking in our own moment, well, I'm just trying to look out for the betterment of myself, and I got to get out of this thing, or I'm doing this thing because I have reasons. But we've all at some point done stuff to hurt somebody else in a way that was either intentional or unintentional, okay? And so I say it because you're basically holding on to this situation, but there's probably other people that you've unintentionally did that to, and you're not thinking about them right now because they're probably thinking like, man, I wish so-and-so, he did this thing and he probably, and you've probably gone past the incident and not think about it anymore, and they're still dwelling about it. We all have been that person. We've had it done to us and we've done it to people. So I say this because I want you to let this girl off the hook. Like, yeah, you never have to talk to her again. You don't need to call her and ask for an apology. She did what she did. She's not in your life anymore. She's not thinking about you. So let her off the hook. Let yourself off the hook from having to think about her and what she did to you, and focus on women in the future that ideally are going to treat you better, because this one right here does not deserve all the comments that you've written about her on my page. Like, you've written like 3 or 4 comments now in different videos, underneath different videos, talking about this one situation, which shows me that you're holding on to it and she's done forgot about it. So that's just something to consider, that you're only hurting yourself. You're not hurting her by continuing to think about this. And I don't know if she's still in your life or not. Ideally, she's not. But if she is, you shouldn't even be keeping her around in hopes that maybe she'll change her ways or apologize to you. Like, that's just not going to fundamentally happen. All right. So yeah, hopefully that helps you get over this a little bit more. I don't know. Hopefully it does. Let's see. We got a comment in the chat that says, I had a disrespectful rejection earlier this year. I just deleted her number and off the socials and moved on. She tried to message me a month after, but I was already too far gone. You know what's funny? I talk about this extensively. To a point, but like, I talk about the fact that guys think in order to get a woman back, that they need to constantly be contacting her. Like, if she goes away or suddenly starts flaking or says like, oh my God, like, we shouldn't be together, this and that, men want to do the most. And I tell you guys, if you just give her what she wants, just say, okay, cool. Anyways, most of the time women will, because what happens is when women get to that point, usually it's like they're thinking, if they're rejecting you, part of it could be like they think you're coming on too strong, or maybe they just don't find you all that attractive, or they think that you're attracted to her because that she's their only option, that you have no other option. And so they reject you thinking that you're going to continue to pester them, or that, you're going to stick around basically. And so when you don't do that, they realize, oh, he's not needy. And then they start to miss your company. They're like, oh crap, like, he was actually a fun guy to talk to, and I could kind of tell him stuff and he wouldn't judge me for it. And it was kind of nice to go out on dates, and we might have hooked up, and the hook was actually pretty good, but I was thinking I could do better. And honestly, guys, I'm gonna tell you now, 'cause I'm 41. As you get older, you're gonna find that there are more women as they get older that start to realize that they're hitting the wall and they're running out of time, and they don't have much left, and they're trying to think back on, is there any guy out there that I could possibly still make this work with? And they think back to you like, oh, there's that one guy that I kind of rejected, but he was actually really nice. And I don't know what I was thinking. God, I hope he still was. And then most guys will go in and take it back. So yeah. So that's what happens, right? It's like when they start messaging you, ideally, because I've told girls before, I said, look, I've told them, if you decide to leave, I'm not typically a take backer guy. So if you come back to me later, I'm probably not going to be available. I'm probably going to have moved on. Or even if I haven't gotten somebody else, I'm probably not going to put myself in that situation again. So you need to make sure unequivocally, if you want to break up, that's what it is. And I've had some girls that, they say, hey, I'm feeling okay, cool, whatever. And I go on to my merry way, come back a week or two later. Well, I thought you were going to fight for me. And well, I didn't mean that. And well, at the time, this and that. Sorry, but that's the thing. When you have an abundance mindset in dating, that kind of stuff's not going to rattle you, because guys right now that are like younger guys that haven't had either younger guys or guys that haven't had a lot of time in the dating world or haven't dated or hooked up with a lot of women, you're always going to be in that mind state of like, I have to do everything perfectly. And if she rejects me at all, I got to do everything to fight to get her back because I have no other options. And as you get older, you're going to find that as women start to get older, they have less options. You have all the options. Because like, if you're a 25-year-old guy, right, your options are like 21, 20 to 25, maybe. But most of those women are dating older. If you get 40, 41, in your early 30s even, like your dating roster still starts at 21 and then goes all the way up to like 45, 46. So you end up having more of a pick. And so as you start to have an understanding that the number of women you're going to be able to realistically try to get has an infinite possibility to it, then this one over here that wants to be flaky or wishy-washy or wants to play the game of like, well, I'm going to break up with him and see what he does. You won't play those games, and women will sense that. And you'll find it, women will start to sense when they date you that, oh, if I break up with him, he seriously will probably not get back to me because I can tell that he thinks he has other options. You know what? He probably does. So as you get to that point, it'll be a lot easier to date, and it'll be a lot easier to not deal with crap like this. Just the two cents for you guys out there that are maybe younger and don't have a lot of experience with women. Trust me, as you become a more confident guy, as you start chasing more of your goals and your dreams, and you start accomplishing them and getting more confident in yourself, then women will just know instinctively not to try to do the whole I'm breaking up with you test, and will see you as more confident and more desirable as a result. Just is what it is, guys. All right, so let's get on to, somebody has a question in the chat. He says, what is that book with the word jerk on it? Oh, same guy. So this is a book called How to Avoid Falling in Love with a Jerk, The Foolproof Way to Follow Your Heart Without Losing Your Mind. And I've read this in a long time. It's an eye-catching title. So I'm going to see what's in here. What's this about? It's been so long since I've read this. Because I typically read, let's see, Follow Your Heart, Your Mind, blah, blah, blah. Hello, I love you. Won't you tell me your name? Find your soulmate. Say what you mean and mean what you say. Third wife was... So the point is this. I tell you guys before, I am a full-on student of dating and relation. Sorry, I have two cameras here. I'm a full student of dating and relationships. And so I read everything. This book, I think it's a book for men and women on basically how to be the best version of yourself. And I've told you guys before, you don't have to be a jerk in order to get women. I'm actually working on a show right now about nice guys, bad boys, and jerks. That'll be coming out probably later this week. But suffice to say, I never believed that you had to be a complete jerk to get women. I believe that jerks have certain qualities that instinctually women biologically desire that most nice guys aren't showing off. And if you're able to display some of those things that are non-toxic that bad boys and jerks do, then you can actually get women. And this book goes into a lot of that stuff. I also have one behind me over here called, this one's called Kosher Sex. I don't know if I've read through this thing all the way. I forget what it's about also. The focus of this book is sex and the central positions it occupies within marriage and relationships. Sex for pleasure is an end in itself, but kosher sex is the fire of sexual attraction that creates union in the bedroom and closeness and intimacy and life. I read this a long time ago. I may have to go through some of these books again just to get some tips and some show ideas for you guys, because I read these books quite often. I have Mars and Venus in the bedroom over there. Like, again, I have a bunch of books up here that are designed to help me because, again, I am a consistent student of the game. I was horrible with women in my teenage years because I was just trying to figure stuff out. I didn't have any male role models around me to kind of show me the ropes, and all the female role models were giving me bad advice. And then so at 21, I started studying. I started reading up on guys like Doc Love and David D'Angelo, and I just started studying more and more guys that were seemingly successful with women in their real lives, you know? And so so it goes from everything from like what I need to do as a guy to how to do female communication, you know, what to do on dates and how to do conflict resolution, like all these skills that I've looked at and read over time. These are things that bit by bit, you get better with women, because by knowing how to communicate, you'll understand when they have communication things that you don't understand. It's like, it's not going to jar you. Honestly, a lot of the negative comments that I get in my videos are guys that come and say like, well, if women just did this, then I would be able to date them. But since they don't, then they're just whatever. And I can't be mad at them, because I used to be that same guy that was like, women don't make sense. They're all crazy. I don't understand them. Why do they act certain ways? And as I've said before, it's literally like learning to communicate with women is literally a second language. If you were able to pass French and Spanish and German in school, then you need to take a whole class on womanese and how women communicate and why when they say these things, they mean these things. And more importantly, as you learn this stuff, you will find that your annoyance with women will start to just lift, because part of being annoyed with women is not understanding the mechanics of what they're doing and not understanding the mindset from where they're coming from that causes them to act the way they do. And for men, if you don't understand something, it's very frustrating. Think about this thing right here, right? This whole bookshelf, okay? This bookshelf came with instructions. If I just throw away the instructions and say, I'm gonna just build this shelf, I'm going to be spending like 3 or 4 days on this thing. It's probably not going to come out right. It's going to be flimsy, and I'm going to be annoyed and frustrated with it, because I'm like, I have a shelf, but it keeps falling apart. It's not holding the books I want. Why won't this do this? If I would just go over to the instruction manual and be like, okay, let's see, step 1. The reason this is falling over is because I put a screw here and I should have put it here. So let's go like that with women. Oh, women are so frustrated. I'm trying to tell them that I like them and they just run away. Oh, wait. The reason this isn't working is because when I tell them I like them, but it's too early, they suddenly get freaked out. So if I wait for them to do it, then that won't happen. Oh, I'm now less frustrated. It really is that simple. So that's why I, for you guys, have created a whole slew of stuff. From my YouTube channel to my various ebooks like Stop Losing Women. I did a whole book. My first book was talking about, it was called No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams, which is still at the website. And it's a whole book where I went through this exercise one summer of going through all the things that I was doing to try to get women that was causing me to lose them. And then I made it into a book it's a funny take that's trying to explain to you how to lose women. And I go through all the things I did, over gifting, over communication, not talking about sex, like all these things, right? But like doing that exercise started to allow me to get better with women, to where I could finally like get a date, get a hookup, get into a relationship. And it all stems from staying in the knowledge of that. And so to this day, even though I'm immensely much, much, much better, to the point where I can show you guys the ropes of how to do this stuff, I never rest on my laurels. Learning communication and just having it in the back of your head and having something to reference to is a never-ending study. But if you do it the right way, you'll reap the benefits by actually finding a good woman. Like, there's so much vitriol online about how there are no good women out there. They all suck. They all want like 6'5" guys with $100,000 salaries and all this other stuff. And I've dated like women that make a lot of money that are really hot. And I'm 5'9.5". I've never made more than, I think the most I made in a year was like $75,000 or something like that. Like, it ain't like I'm like boatloads of rich over here. I just know how to make women feel the things they need to feel, and in authentic ways. I'm not trying to like manipulate their emotions, but I know the moves to make to allow the dating pace to be comfortable for them, to where they can become comfortable with me. And that took a while to learn. Now, my journey for learning all that stuff took like 10 to 15 years. If you want to cut that in half, go to the website, check out my ebooks, audiobooks, and programs. And you can also sign up for coaching that will help you get to that place a lot quicker, because I want your journey for this to be a lot shorter than mine was. So that's why I have all these books up here. Hopefully, that wasn't a question, but I appreciate you pointing that book out. So let's get into, let's get into this woman's comment, right? So I have a video up called Confirming Dates Kills Attraction. And in that video, I talk about how when you confirm a date with a woman, more often than not, you're going to find that they probably cancel. Even if she wanted to keep the date initially, there are things and psychological reasons why when you confirm a date with a woman, it can result in her having second guessing herself and causing her to cancel the date. So what this woman's response was such bad advice. That's all she said, right? So I actually responded to her. I wrote a really nice comment. I said, thank you for leaving commentary. And I said, what did I say? Well, basically what the gist of what I said is what I'm gonna tell you guys is this, right? Is that I have women at times that will comment under my videos and say things like, that's bad advice, or I would never fall for that, or, if a guy waited between 4 days between dates not to text me, then I would just stop dating him and blah, 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 right? I get these comments quite often from women. And so what I said to her basically was that it's interesting that when a guy is doing something that a woman's unaware of that he's doing, it'll work. Like, for example, right? If I don't text a woman between dates, I've just found that when I wait 4 days to call her up, I found in my journey of dating that more often than not, that resulted in me getting second dates and third dates and hookups and eventually relationships. I found that when I was trying to text every day and call nonstop, that resulted in her starting to think I was too needy, her starting to lose attraction, her ghosting me, and us not getting to any kind of thing, right? And so I said, same thing goes with the confirming dates. I found in my journey that I would set up dates, and then like the day before or the day of, I'd call them, hey, so are we still on for the date? And then they'd be like, yeah, sure. And then a couple hours later, oh, something came up. Oh, I can't. Oh, something, I can't go all of a sudden. Oh my God. Or I had one girl who just didn't show up at all. Like, just didn't happen, right? And so I was doing this confirming, and then per my studies, I read about like not confirming dates and how confirming a date is almost like when you ask a woman on a date, you're basically doing a sales job. You're saying, hey, based on these things, I think we'd have a good time. What do you say? And then she says yes to that, right? So you get everything set down. You say, okay, great. Date's going to be at this time, this day, whatever. You set it up, you go, right? When you call her or text her to reconfirm the date, you're basically reopening up the sales process. Now, I was a person that did sales a long time, right? And in sales, what they taught me is that the worst thing you could do at the point where the prospect has agreed to buy the product is to keep talking. When you reconfirm a date, you're basically continuing to talk. And that now a woman's having to start again at square one with you as if you'd never asked her out, except now she doesn't have all the backing before that you gave her to qualify yourself enough to make her want to have a date with you, right? So it's like you went through this whole thing. We should go out because blah, blah, blah. We have a good time. I take this. I'm gonna show you this, blah, blah, blah. Then you hit her up. Hey, so are we still on for that date? And now she's thinking, on for the date? Oh, that's right. We had a date today. Did I want to really do that? Not really. But she was sold the day before. So when I read that, right, I was like, that's stupid. Just like this woman. Oh, that's such bad advice. That's so dumb. But I was at a point in my life where I was like, I'm already doing bad with women. It couldn't hurt to try some of this stuff. So I tried it. I hit up a girl. I set up a date with her, made up all the details. Great. I'll see you tomorrow. The first time I tried this of not confirming, it took everything in me to keep on to the strength of not trying to contact this girl because I was so sure she wasn't going to keep the date. And guess what happened? She, an hour before the date, hit me up. Hey, so-and-so, just want to make sure that we're still on for the date. Now, why was she doing that? Because up to this point in her life, she's had every other guy in her life confirm the date, and more often than not, she's probably canceled. By me not trying to call her from the date, now it causes her to second guess herself. Like, he's not calling to reconfirm. Why doesn't he want to see this date still happening? Maybe he's canceled the date. Maybe I'm not good enough now for him to want to keep this date. So I got to double check with him to make sure that he finds me still good enough to keep this date. And I found since I stopped confirming dates, I got more dates kept. Did they all go to relationships? No, but the point is I still got those first and second dates when I didn't confirm versus the amount of dates that I was losing when I was confirming, thus showing her that I was not feeling worthy enough for her to actually want to keep her word with the date and thus causing her to view me as less than attractive, right? So I said a shorter version of that to her. I said that, so based on my experience, this is why I say this. Now I said, what's also interesting though, is that I find it funny that when guys do certain things, like I just talked about, that they will actually work. But at the point that you point them out to women, their response is going to be, that doesn't work. That can't be a thing. If some guy did this to me, I would never. And I said, I think the reason, my hypothesis on this is that women don't like to feel like they're being manipulated or that the decisions that they're making are the results of things that you're doing, which means it's putting you in control of them. They don't want to feel like that because it gives that vibe of like they're manipulating me, they're making me do things that I don't actually want to do, but they're subconsciously making me want to do it. And so this is why, as a guy, I tend to not have these conversations with women that I'm dating. Like, once we're in the throes of the dating process, most women I find, I can be like, hey, so this is how I attracted you and blah, 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 blah. And they're usually typically fine with it. But if you're just asking blanket a woman, hey, so if a guy decided not to confirm a date with you, like, would you continue to keep the date? I can assure you, 97% of women are going to be like, oh, no, he has to confirm with me. And this is why if you ever ask a woman this, right, and she gives you that answer, you can respond simply with this. Okay, well, look, don't even, because you never want to do hypothetical stuff with women, right? Because they're going to always, it's a hypothetical guy, hypothetical situation. They're going to be able to BS some stuff to you, right? What you got to do is say, okay, has there ever been a guy in your past who you had the absolute hots for, you really wanted him to go out with you, and he called you up and said, hey, I want to take you out this day, this time, be ready, and he didn't reconfirm? Has there ever been a guy that you went on a first date with and had the best time of your life, and then he had a work thing, he had to go out of town, and for whatever reason, he was not able to call you or initiate a phone call for like 5 to 7 days? And even if she lies to you, I can assure you, every woman has had that guy that she had high interest in that did these things I'm talking about, and she continued to like him, which is why, as Doc Love used to say, high interest level cuts everything. Everything that you think you can't do, I assure you there's been a guy that has done it because the woman had high interest. She didn't care. She just wanted that guy. Women that are saying, oh, I'm too busy, I can't make time because of my job. I assure you that woman has gotten off her job early or made time for the guy that she had high interest in. So that's why I say when women say things like, oh, that's such bad advice, it's only bad for guys that she doesn't like or that she's hypothetically thinking about versus realistically dealing with that she has feeling for, okay? So this is also why, guys, you can't listen to women that give you dating advice for the most part because it's generally bad advice. Like, because they're coming from a place of hypothetically, these things sound like they should be good and work, and yet when you try them, it's not going to. How do I know this? Because my dad died when I was 9. From age 9 into my dating years, all the advice that I was getting was mostly from women, and none of it worked. So I can assure you that the women that are teaching you stuff, they mean well, but unfortunately, just because they mean well doesn't mean it will work well for you. So you have to be very mindful about that and take things women are saying to you with a grain of salt, because my advice for confirming dates kills attraction isn't coming from a hypothetical place. It's coming from a place of, I tried both versions of this where I confirmed dates and then I didn't confirm dates, and I got better results when I didn't confirm dates. So I'm giving advice from an actual lived perspective. Women are the ones that are receiving the things that we are doing to them. So they're not gonna be able to comprehend why a thing that we're doing will work. They're just thinking it shouldn't work. But just because it shouldn't work doesn't mean it won't work, you know? So you just gotta be mindful of that when you hear this kind of stuff from women, all right? Let's see, anyway, let's see, like, ooh, what's your favorite? I can't understand this. He says, Wasinji, it's your favorite question at, yes, you're welcome to ask questions during this live. It's totally fine. Glad you listened to the tail end of my response. Yeah, like, here's the thing, like, so the guy that I was talking about earlier about the rejection thing, he's saying you were correct about your response to the next guy after me. After the disrespect, I immediately went into no contact for like a year and a half. Here's the thing, with the idea of no contact is that you're literally not contacting this person ever again. Like, I know people have this thing of like, well, you go on no contact for a certain number of days or a certain number of weeks or months or maybe even a year or so. And then after that no contact time, then you hit them up again. But no contact means that they've gotten to a point where the other person is either disrespecting you or has blatantly said to you, I'm not interested, which means you're going to no contact for you, not for them, not to get them back. You're going into it because it's the understanding that this person does not actually deserve your contact and that you need to be moving on and finding people that do deserve your contact. Now, with that said, it just so happens that if you authentically do no contact where you don't reach out to them, you will typically find at some point in time, they will reach out by default. So you're going with no contact knowing that there's a chance that the person could respond back to you, but you're not going into it hoping that they will. You're going into it with the idea that you're moving on to somebody that's going to be better and want to have more consistent contact with you than the person that you're ignoring at the moment. You know what I mean? He says, she tried to come into my Discord. This is like 2 years later. I don't think she expected me to just disappear like that. Well, here's the reality, right? Is that most women have simps following them, which means that most women do not ever get to experience a man that just fully stops talking to them, which is why when you actually do ignore them and stop contacting them and get rid of them off your social media and your phone number, all this other stuff, they get a little jarred. And then part of their ego is guys following them and them being so perfect that, no guy's going to want to actually get rid of them, that when you do, that's the thing that hits at their ego. Like, I can't be this undesired. He got rid of me. Like, but I'm me. I'm so great. I mean, even though I did those things that were crappy to him, but he should still be wanting to try to get with me and be begging for me and all. No, I got to see what's up with him. And that's how the get back works. So, and that's the point where, like, if they're hitting you up, you could decide to make the move. But if she's as toxic as you were saying that she is in these comments that you left, then her contacting you back doesn't warrant you having to respond to her. She went 2 years without contacting you. I'd probably do just the same to her. Like, she didn't deserve your contact. There are so many other women out there. I'm telling you, I've dated a lot. And I guess at the point in my dating journey that I'm at right now, I don't allow for a lot of BS. I'm also older, so that means that I don't really care for a lot of drama in my relationships. And my relationship dating life is pretty much even keel. If you want to be around me, you're going to show it, and great. And we're showing kind. And if you decide you want to go away, hey, you have the freedom to go after whoever you want. And I'm not going to hold you back from that, but don't think I'm going to stick around either, because me having to see you every day when I know I still want you is going to cause me pain. And I don't want to cause either of us pain. So I'm going to not cause you pain by trying to keep you here. And I'm not going to cause myself pain by keeping you around. If that just so happens to want to make them stay longer, then so be it. But I'm not doing it for them at this point, because I have an abundance mindset. I know I can get other women if this one decides to act up. If you haven't gotten to that point in your life, then that could simply mean that you need to modify your mindset a bit about how this whole dating thing works. And I can help you with that at the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. All right. We got a question in the chat. How are you? Awesome. All right. So here's the question. This guy asked the question. He says, I got a new side job and met a girl there. She showed signs of liking me, coming close to me, breaking physical barrier, touching for no reason. The next day, she acts cold. Why? I don't know if you left this comment or somebody left a comment similar to that on my page, right? So I don't know how often this is happening, because it sounds like she did all this on day one, and then on day two, she wasn't doing nothing, right? So here's the truth, is that your new stimuli, and women have fun flirting. Like, women have fun flirting and talking to guys, and it doesn't always have to lead to something romantic. And also realize that women are hormonal, and the day-to-day of how they treat you is going to shift. One day they could be all flirty and kind and generous. The next day they could just be like, I want to be to myself. And here's the thing, guys. Here's the point, is that I don't want you to get into the habit of overthinking too much about what a woman's moves mean or don't mean. Like, I know I teach in this show a lot about how, like, hey, look out for these things that are signs of interest, right? But the problem is, like, to this guy's point, women will go from like doing that stuff to all of a sudden, like, oh my gosh, she's not doing anything to me. What's going on? It must be about me. She must not like me as much, or she's playing games, yada, yada, yada. I'll give you a perfect example, right? So I was at a job one time, and there was a girl that was there, and she came in one day and was like not really talking to anybody. She wasn't her normal bubbly self, whatever, right? And so it turned out somebody close to her had recently passed away, and she was upset about it, right? Now, I wasn't trying to be flirty with this girl at all. But the point is this: what if I had been? If I've been flirty with this girl, and I'm just like, I come in one day and she's all of a sudden like, whatever. And I'm like, oh, she's not touching me today. She's not doing whatever. She's not giving me normal conversation. Oh my God, she must be blah, 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 blah. I'm making it all about me, right? And really in the situation, it's about what she's going through and the turmoil she has in her head for that day, to where she's just not that way, right? And so this is why you have to really take so much of what her actions are off of you, about, because I didn't do this thing, or because she's acting this way, it's based on her feeling certain thing for me and I for whatever. Like, guys, you just show up the best way you can, and hopefully how she's acting towards you is going to be great, but you can't assume it's going to be like that all the time, or that She doesn't have other things going on besides trying to attract you and get to know you, yada, yada, yada. So that's the first part. But the second part is this, is that if she is going from showing you that stuff and or whatever, this is also, you're on a job, right? So understand that there might be part of it that's like, this is a job situation, maybe things are going on and I don't want to quite whatever, you know? He says she has been doing this for weeks. She offered to drive me to Unicampus. We went to eat before she dropped me off. And the next day she acts cold. Okay. So this goes back to women are hormonal, and it's realistically, you just met this girl in the beginning of any kind of thing, whatever, right? Women are going to go from like showing all the interest in the world to like, maybe it lowers a day. I actually talked about this in my show where I talked about the levels of interest going from like basically 50 to like 100, right? So basically, or I went from 1 to 10, but basically there's going to be times in your interaction with a woman where in the beginning, it might start at like, say she's at like a 2, right? And then she gets to know you a bit, whatever. It goes to like a 4, and then maybe it goes to like a 5, and then it gets to a 7, where she's just like, she's driving you to uni, she's buying you food, all this other stuff. And then one day it dips back down to like 4. It could be something you did, something you said, or it could just be she's having an off day, or maybe, you know, depending on how much time you guys spend with each other, maybe you've been spending a lot of time and she's starting not to miss you as much because she's seeing you and talking to you all the time, which happens a lot because a lot of guys are over texting and being there too much for her. And as a guy, we're thinking, but that makes no sense because she likes me and she wants to be around me and she's the one that's suggesting the blah, blah, blah. And so what I find is that when a woman's energy starts to look like it's pulling back a bit, the worst thing you can do as a guy is try to go forward. Like if she has a day where she's something not as touchy-feely, that's fine. You don't be as touchy-feely. If it goes from she's texting you every day till she texts you 1 or 2 word answers, fine. You text 1 or 2 word answers. I typically recommend guys like stay off the phone altogether except to ask for dates. But again, part of this could be if you find that you've been spending a lot of time with her, then it could simply be she's at that point in the ebb and the flow of the relationship where, or it's not relationship yet. So the dating phase where it's like, I think I like this guy, but we might be spending a lot of time together. And so I don't know where I'm feeling, but he's around a lot. And when you don't give a woman room to breathe and to stop and kind of think about you, then that can start to cause her to pull back just a little bit because she's starting, it's almost like she's starting to like second guess if what she's feeling is actually real, if she likes you as much as she thinks she does, if she hasn't had time to really sit with herself for that stuff, that can cause her to start to pull back a bit. He said, how should I deal with the situation when I'm in the office and she is around? What's the best alpha advice you could give me? How should I act? I love the alpha stuff. Real talk. Here's the thing, guy. Okay. And I mentioned this on a previous show too about how like, you know, like there's a difference between if you're around her all the time when you're like texting her and trying to invite her out versus when you're around her at the office, right? Because at the office, yes, you see each other every day, but you don't have to talk to her. Like there's gonna be, I don't know how you guys are situated in your job. If it's like just you two are at the job and that's it. But I have found that more often than not, that's a situation where she might come over to your desk or whatever your job thing is to talk for a little bit, banter, and then walk off to talk to other people. So she's not having to talk to you nonstop, whereas the phone, that can be a nonstop thing. You being in person tends to be more of a nonstop thing. And so, like I said, it just could be a thing where she needs a bit of a break. And this guy saying, ignore her, but be nice to her when she approaches you. This is one of those things where, again, this other thing too, is that I don't think guys realize that there's this myth going on that in terms of attraction, relationships should be 50-50. Each person should be 50-50 trying, right? So it's like, oh, like I'm going to hit her up 50% of the time. She's going to hit me up. I'm going to ask her out 50% of the time. She's going to hit me up. And I'm going to show her interest and talk about my feelings 50% of the time, and she'll do the same. And that's not how this works. Because I've said on the show before, women feel things 3 times more by the actions that we do. So if we text her 3 times to her 3 times, it feels like we're texting her 9 times in terms of initiating text, right? So that's why I tell you guys, for example, in terms of initiating text, it should be 3 to 1. For every 3 texts she initiates, you send 1. For every 3 times she says, I love you, you say 1. That to her is going to feel like an even balance. Because as much as women like to act like they don't want to chase us, the reality is if she's chasing you, she can't be replacing you. And women only chase men that they feel they have to catch. And in order for that, get that feeling, it means you can't be doing the most. So as much as you want to spend a lot of time with her, if you're the one that's constantly initiating that time, that is a problem because it means that she's not doing more of the initiating than you are. Yes, in the beginning of dating, you're going to be asking her out like once a week. But what you're going to find is as you do that, as the more she starts to like you, she's going to start to ask you for more times out. Like, again, you'll ask her out for one day a week, like for a Thursday, and she'll say, hey, so let's meet up on a Monday. Oh, I have this thing happening on Tuesday. That's her asking you out more. If you find that that's not happening up to this point, then it means that you're doing too much stuff and you're not allowing her to actually do. So, per what this guy's saying, just scale it back a bit. Like, you're not getting rid of her. This isn't a major red flag when she's trying to dump you. It just could be her short signal. Here's another thing too. I say that a lot. Here's another thing too. I'm looking at what I do in these conversations and stuff. But anyway, I just had it in my head. Is that I just lost the thought. I'm sorry. I had a great thought about what she was doing. And there's the thing. Okay, yes. So when women start to get silent about things, sometimes it means that there's something you're doing that's causing, the thing you're doing is causing her attraction to you to be slightly affected. Not enough to do any major damage to her feelings for you, but slightly, whatever, right? But women just oftentimes, just like guys, don't always know how to bring it up. And a lot of women have had the experience of trying to bring up a thing to a guy that resulted in that guy blowing up or taking it out of proportion or thinking she doesn't like him anymore. And so women in those moments can get in their head about like, okay, I want to say this thing to him. It could be like, you snore too loud, or, she wants to hang out with you more, but like she's starting to not hang out with her friends as much or whatever. And she doesn't know how to say that without thinking you're going to get hurt. So she doesn't, so that happens sometimes too. In those situations, it's probably fine to be like, hey, I'm great getting to know you. Like, what can I be, is there anything that we could be talking about or that I haven't done that could be maybe even more beneficial to us getting to know each other, whatever, because otherwise women won't voice it. Like, I know guys like, you shouldn't ask a woman about things going wrong, this is that. To a point, you should be able to be confident, but you also need to recognize that there are going to be times when women want to say stuff and they're not. And so you got to kind of like get that out of like, hey, babe, I noticed like, maybe you're kind of feeling down the other day. I just want to know, like, is everything okay? Or what's going on with you? Like, I want to know what's happening in your world right now to make sure that we're good, But that's another little thing too. But ultimately, in terms of you and her, like I said, just be a bit more patient. Maybe not see her every single day this week. Maybe not talk to her every single day, and see if that doesn't turn things around to her coming back to you. So hopefully somewhat of what I've said has helped you out. All right. So we got a question here. Same guy. So he's saying, would you guys think the following is a good idea? I'm going to ask my manager that I'm busy with uni and I want to work from home the next week. So I don't go to the office for a full week and I don't see her. So I won't see them at the office for a week. You can try it out. I said, the nice thing about the dating game is that it's all just experimenting. Like, you're trying things that work or don't work. So you could very well be like, you need to work for the office in the week and then just work for a couple of days from home and then see if she reaches out. Hey, I haven't seen you in the office for a minute. What's going on? Did you get fired? What's going on? Blah, 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 blah. Oh, nothing. Just, I had some things to catch up on. So I had to work at the office. I had to work from home this week just to really get caught up on stuff. But hey, you know what? I'd love to see you. Let's plan out a time to see each other on this day at this time. That way, when she reaches out to you, which we're hoping she's going to do, then you can say, oh, I've been busy at home, but I'd love to catch up. And you're still planning a date. Because again, ultimately, you should be using the phone for planning dates, not for all this extra talk, all right? So try that out. And hey, I'd love to be able to, because I do the show once a week, I'd love to see what the results are from you doing this. So keep us posted, All right, so we'll take a break right now. Let's go ahead and get into the main topic for today. So, you're welcome. I'm glad you're appreciating the advice. Like I said, this is from years of trial and error. So everything I tell you guys and all the advice that I give you guys, I've gone through most of the situations you guys have gone through. I've gone through dating a coworker before. I've gone through, my high school days, not being the best with women and trying to figure out how I should talk to them, how I should approach them. Like, I've run the gamut. So the things I'm advising you on is not just coming out of my butt. Like, it's really based on like, this was the same situation. Like, real talk. I had a girl I was working with for... It's a little do me. Okay. So I had a girl I was working with at a sandwich shop out here for like 2 years. And we kind of had like a playful banter going back and forth at work, but it wasn't like as much as attractive as I found her, I wasn't like thinking anything could happen. Right. And then one night, me, her, and her best girlfriend, we left work and went to go to some kind of thing. We went to some restaurant, something like that. And I had to drop the friend off, but we had to stop someplace first for the girl that I worked with to get something from like some other place, right? So she left the car and me and the friend are there, and the friend just looks at me and is like, she has a crush on you, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? He's like, yeah, she actually like has kind of a crusty thing on you. It's like, oh my God, I had no idea. So then that girl gets back in the car. I drop her friend off, and now it's just me and the girl from work in the car, right? So we go to get something to eat real quick. And then as we're leaving, I'm going to drive her home, and she's like, well, I mean, if you want to hang out at your place for a little bit, we can do that. What? So at this point, I knew just enough game to know if she's saying she wants to come to my place just to hang out and watch the movies a little bit, that was code for she's probably ready to do some stuff. So we go back to my place and we get to my room. I turn on my TV. It's not like 5 seconds before we're just, doing whatever. Girl, my job. So we hooked up a few times, and then it got to a point where, admittedly, because I was still getting into the groove of like kind of understanding women, there's going to be times in your journey of dating when you get better with women that you're going to be like, yes, I got this. And then you're going to do something and completely fall off the wagon, and you got to get back up. So I started appearing a little bit too needy, maybe a little too possessive in terms of like, I want to see you today and blah, blah, blah. And so she decided she just she ghosted me, but we still work together. So for me, I had to now go into the job I went to the job like 3 or 4 times a week where I saw her at least 2 of those days out the week, right? I had to go into the job knowing that I was going to see her and that we were no longer hooking up, and I had to be cool with it. And it really taught me about like the fact that I think as guys, we think our emotions, we aren't in control of our own emotions, and that we're going to just fly off the handle whenever we see our exes or we think people are treating us wrong. And it's like, no, because if you're in a professional setting, you have to get your emotions under control. You can't fly off the handle with this woman that you saw the night before that doesn't want to see you anymore, because that's unprofessional. So you start to learn that, oh, I can actually be in control of my emotions. I can actually go to my job and see this person and just talk to them like I was talking to them before we hooked up. Like just talk to them regular. Hey, what's up? How's your day? Oh, here comes the customer, yada, 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 right? But here's the other thing too, is that I didn't act butthurt. I didn't call her out of her name. I was able to be cordial. A few months later, we're at the restaurant and we're just kind of like shooting the breeze, whatever. We start kind of talking. Next thing I know, she's getting a little flirty. I'm getting a little flirty. And we hooked up again. And we hooked up a few more times after that before it ultimately fizzled out. But it's like, why was that able to happen? Because I wasn't butthurt. I decided to be patient. I let her go on her own journey or whatever. And as a result of that, I appeared less needy, and we were able to reconnect again. So that's an example of I've been through the hooking up at job situation to know that you pestering a person isn't going to be beneficial, and that sometimes just being a bit more patient could cause them to get back into good graces with you if you're not acting all mad at them or trying to call them out for all that kind of stuff, So hopefully that gives you some insight into how that happens. This guy says, how do we not appear needy? From your experience, what should we avoid doing and how should we act? It really is about changing your mind state, right? Here's the mind state that I always have now when it comes to dating, all right? Is that at the end of the day, whether it's me or the person that I want, we're all going to ultimately decide who is best for us at our current time. And sometimes that's going to be you, and it's going to be awesome. And at the same time, that person could also be like, but in this season right now, it's not this person. And I just found that, I don't know, I've talked a lot about on this channel about being indifferent to outcomes. It doesn't mean that I don't care if the person that I'm hooking up with decides to stop. It just means that in the grand scheme of things, this person can do what they want to do. I can do what I want to do. If what they want to do is not be around me, that's fine. Now, in my state, I have the option to either be mad about it, be butthurt, have resentment towards it, or I could be like, well, I had fun times while it lasted. It sucks that they're going away. I got to find somebody else. So I don't take dating personally. Like if they decide to leave me, it feels personal because it's, person to person, but it could just be a choice she's making for her own benefit. It has nothing to do with me at all. And it should, because it's me, because we're hooking up or whatever like that. But it's like, that's just not how people operate. And I think both men and women have unrealistic expectations of how they think people should be versus how they actually are. How people should be is loyal. What people actually are is loyal to themselves. So if I'm dating somebody, even a person that's like the most loyal, kindest, sweetest, begging for my attention, all of me type person, in the back of my head, I always have, but at any moment in time, they could choose to go away. And if they do, that's okay. Because I know of my own accord, I'm confident enough to go find somebody else. So it doesn't keep me attached to the outcome of this person having to have it work out. So because I have that mindset, if I go in the next day and I see a person that I hooked up with making out with somebody else or talking to somebody else or not want to talk to me, I'm just like, hey, what's going on? How you doing? Like they could do me the most wrong in the world and do whatever. Like, and the next day, hey, how's your night? Okay, great, awesome. Like it might feel a little awkward, but it's not going to take me out of me from having to be able to talk to them. Like it just doesn't bug me like it used to. But again, in my early 20s, you couldn't tell me that. You couldn't tell me, when I first got to California, I went to a party one time and I met this girl. And the girl that I met was the cousin of one of my friends that actually was throwing the party, right? We went somewhere and we started talking a little bit. Next thing you know, we're making out all over the house and stuff like that. I'm thinking we're going to hook up. We don't. But we did a really heavy makeout session, right? And then we get back so we went from that party to then the after party was at me and my friend's apartment. So we go back there and we're in my bedroom again, not doing anything, just lying there, whatever, talking, whatever, like this and that. And I'm thinking this is going to be a thing, right? And it doesn't be a thing. But then the next 5 or 6 parties that we threw, my friend was there, which means that his cousin was coming, and I had to see her with her boyfriend. That I guess she was on a break from her boyfriend at the time that I was making out with her, which is a whole nother story. But suffice to say, so she's bringing this dude around now, and again, she's coming to my parties at my place because she's been being invited by my friend. What am I going to do in the middle of a party? Oh, why aren't you talking to me? Well, you made out with me at this thing, and you blah, blah, you're using that. Why? She don't care. The people at the party don't care. I'm the one that's in my feelings about it, and I have a choice to make. Do I continue to be in my feelings about this person who I know I'm going to continue to see at parties that we throw, because my friend throws a lot of parties at a lot of literally high swanky places. I'm going to see this person, and or am I going to just be like, you know what? The makeout session was what it was. It felt good. I wish you could have gone someplace, but you know what? On to the next. And that's what I did. And so I think as late as 2 years ago, I saw this same person at another party that my friend threw. I was like, hey, so-and-so, what's going on? How you doing? How's the family? How's the kids? Blah, blah, blah. I just don't care. But again, it took me a lot of years to get to the journey from I care about every single girl that's not wanting to see me anymore to I can talk to them and be fine because we all have choice, And that takes work. It takes taking dating less personally. It takes being more confident, but ultimately it takes more dating experience. And not that I'm saying, your whole life should be just dating, right? Because ultimately you're trying to get to where you find that person. But it does take a level of understanding that people are motivated by their own things that they want. And that if it's not you in that moment, then that's how they're going to operate. And it's not fair, but who said dating or life in general is fair? But you have the option to choose, to literally sit there and say, okay, you're going to start to, with this girl, right? You're gonna feel mad about a thing. You'll be like, oh my gosh, she's cheating me. This is what. Stop. Just stop. Sit there and think to yourself, I'm letting this person make me feel a certain way about the situation. Do I want to feel that way? Is this person going to help me not feel that way? Okay, no. So then do I have the ability to get myself to a point where I can be fine? If this woman starts to act weird and never talks to me again, can I get to a point where I don't let that bug me? And this is where, again, I'm all on this channel about self-responsibility and being able to do what you can do to get yourself to a better situation. So you being resentful, hurt, scared, anxious, none of that serves you. So you have to get into the practice of practicing the habit of not letting things bug you so much. And I say it's practicing a habit because growing up, we all develop really, really bad habits about, we say things like, oh, well, she hurt my feelings, or, she did this to me and it hurt me emotionally, or this and that. Like we put all that stuff on other people and it allows other people to control us. And as a guy, that is the worst way to be because you don't want how your woman feels about you or how she talks to you to make you feel a certain way about yourself. So what you do is you take control of that. You say, hey, if a woman decides to date me, great. If a woman decides not to date me, great. I found out early. I can find somebody else. In either situation, I can choose to say, whether they date me or not, I'm going to be great. Or I can also choose to say, oh, if a girl dumps me, I'm going to be heartbroken and sad and I'm going to blah, blah. You can feel that way, but does it serve you? I just found it didn't serve me. So at the point where I realized that, I got tired of putting how I feel about myself on women and said, you know what? I'm going to take that back. So if a woman wants to go out with me, okay, great. If a woman doesn't want to go out with me, okay, great. I've decided and I've practiced doing that. And so all the responses that we have, as much as we think that this is just how we are, it's all learned stuff. It's all habits that we've done over and over again. So you think about the journey of dating for a guy from ages 14 to 20 or something, right? We're dealing with women and we're having a response. The first time as a guy, we get rejected by women, we usually have like a bad response. We're crying, we're upset, we want to yell back at her. And then we just keep doing that every time we get rejected. So by the time you hit 20, you now have a history and a habit of when a girl rejects me, I feel butthurt and I cry and I get upset. And that is a habit. So just like you built that habit up, you can start to build up the habit of, okay, if a woman rejects me, I'm going to objectively say, you know what? She must have seen something about us that wasn't going to work, or I just have other things to work on. That way women will feel like we should work. But you know what? It's a good lesson. On to the next. And you can do that. And I found for me, doing that from ages, we'll say realistically like 24 to like 29 helped me immensely in my 30s dating, whereby if women would reject me, okay, whatever. If women wanted to really go out with me, okay, whatever. Like I didn't put so much emotional stock in either one, because regardless of what it is, I'm going to be fine. And so if you start practicing that today, I can assure you in 2 to 3 years, women rejecting you, women suddenly going silent on you is going to not even be a thing to you, because you're going to be so in control of your emotions that your response is going to be like, oh, that's just her. All right, on to the next. But you got to practice this kind of things, right? Now, if you need help with that, go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com. I'd love to help you start on the journey of getting to that feeling, you know? Got a question here in the chat. He says, I was just thinking, I've had a couple girls tell me I look scary. And when I asked what they meant, one said scary as in, quote, I look like I'm going to kick them. And intimidating. Is this good or bad? I will say, like, that's an interesting question. I'll say this, like, just because a woman says that the impression you're giving her is one way, it doesn't mean it's a turnoff. Like a woman saying to you, oh, you look kind of scary and intimidating. What they're actually telling you is, I don't think you're a guy I can get over on. And to some women, that is scary, because most women's lives are going to be like guys are simping up to them and putting them in control of how things are going to operate, right? As a guy, when they see it's from a guy, they're not used to that. So initially, yeah, it can be intimidating. Oh my God, you look like a guy I can't possibly like push over, or that's not going to be easy to walk all over. Now, what most women unfortunately find is that even the guys that look like that can in fact end up being simps. But if you've already got the look of, you look like you're intimidating, you look like you're going to be confident, that's good. The part about kicking, that's their own personal trauma that they got to deal with, because they're thinking like, oh, this guy looks like some guy that's going to beat my butt. And I'll always be fair, women also date guys that abuse them. So I'm not saying it's good or bad. I'm just saying that if that's your look, like, it's an interesting commentary that you're getting. I don't know how you change to somebody that's not looking like you could kick somebody. But again, so women also have things wrong with in their head stuff. I don't think, people like to blame all the dating woes on guys and not knowing X, Y, and Z, but women also have their own things they got to deal with. So these could just be women that have experienced trauma or have experienced guys that look like you kicking their butt. I would say that'd be interesting women, but I don't know if I date them per se, because that's just an interesting set of women. Like that's a weird thing for women to be telling you, but don't take it personally. Just find women that don't think you're going to look like you're kicking them, So anyway, hold on a second here. All right. So I'm going to get some water real quick because I'm running low on water. I will be right back. Hey guys, Harry Wilmington here. And I just want to tell you really quickly about some of the awesome ebooks that I have available at the website. So to start off with, we have my brand new book, Stop Losing Women, which is based off of my previous podcast. And it's over 284 pages of life-changing advice for your dating life. You're going to discover in the span of these pages the ins and outs of how to become more confident, the do's and don'ts of how to attract women, how to pace yourself during the dating process, and ultimately what it truly takes for you to be a more confident dater, so that way you can get out there, attract women, and more importantly, stop losing women, okay? The other ebook that I have on my website is called No Girls For You, The Ultimate Guide to Losing the Girl of Your Dreams. This is the first book that I ever wrote, and simply put, it is a 12-chapter masterpiece that is designed to, in a very funny way, mind you, guide you through the ins and outs of why all the things you're trying to do right now to attract women can actually cause you to lose them. I mean, things like being the nice guy, overextending yourself, getting too many gifts, too many compliments, and a variety of other things that you may think as a guy I should be doing. This funny book's going to help you figure out once for all why you should not do those things and how to better yourself instead. So be sure to check that book out as well. The other book that's been very popular at my website is called Texting Like a Boss. This is where, for all you guys out there that have problems texting women or don't understand why she starts off so chummy in the terms of the texting things, and then she starts to kind of go away and you can't figure out what's going on or why, or you're not an efficient enough texter to be able to actually get dates by way of texting. Well, this book is going to give you 21 do's and don'ts that are tried, true, and tested, so that way you can get the results that you want with women when you're texting them, and ultimately not do the wrong things that are going to cause her to eventually ghost you in the texting room. All right. So check that book out at the website. Lastly, my other popular book that I have there is called 10 Steps to Winning Back Your Ex, the step-by-step, no-nonsense guide to reconnecting with an old flame, regardless of who ended the relationship. And so for you guys that are like, hey, I think I lost a great one and she left me and I want to get her back, or you might have been the guy that's like, hey, I dumped her and then I realized I made a mistake and I want to get her back. Well, this book covers both of those scenarios in a very detailed step-by-step way that is designed to allow you to figure out what you did wrong, how you can show up better, and the sequence of events you need to go through in order to effectively win back the woman that you are no longer with. So if these things sound like things that'll be helpful to you, then definitely go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, click on the products tab, where you can find a summary of all these books as well as my various programs, and they will be more than happy in helping you figure out whatever part of the dating journey you're on, so that way you will not be confused and you will ultimately be able to have the dating life that you want. So check those out at the website today. You know, it's funny. I went to fill up my water cup, and then while that was running, I drank like half the water. Oh God, why? All right. One thing I do want to say, I want to point this out because, you know, I throughout this broadcast, and as you just saw, I ask you guys a lot. I say, you know, hey, go to the website and buy the book. Go to the website, get the program. Go to the website and get one-on-one coaching, right? But I'm very unapologetic in doing that, because one of the things they taught us in sales is that ultimately closed mouths don't get fed. You need to ask for what you want in life. And I parallel a lot of the sales stuff to the dating stuff. And I found that's also true of dating, is that there are not enough men that are opening their mouths and actually asking women for the offer, asking women for the date. You know, in my college days, what I regret most, honestly, is that there were actually women on campus that I had full-blown crushes on, that at no time did I ever ask them out because I was nervous. And there were women that I knew had crushes on me, and I thought I was just going to be so nervous asking them out that if I did try to ask them out, that they were going to see whatever method I was doing it as corny, or it's going to make me come off as a doof of some kind. And therefore, I just didn't ever ask them out. And again, these are women that I found out years later would have actually probably said yes to a date, but I was just so nervous about being willing to actually ask for what I wanted for fear of rejection that I just never did. And so this is why nowadays I go after the women that I want, because I find that ultimately there's no downside. And worst case scenario is most women I found are going to be very, very nice with the rejections. I've only had like my first time ever having a woman find out that I was interested in her was in first grade, and she laughed at me on the bus so hard that the entire bus started laughing at me, because she was like, I know you have a crush on me, blah, blah, blah. So it prevented me from asking out women for a very, very long time. And I got in my head. But at the point where I became a teenager, became my 20s, like that was at the point where I started to discover that the few women I did ask out, it'd either be like, you know, oh yeah, she'll be great. Or just be like, you know, oh no, I can't. Or, oh, I have a boyfriend. Or, oh, I'm too busy. Like it was always a nice rejection, right? I was just in my head about it. But the point is that I started getting more results and better results dating women that I actually wanted, simply by asking for the date. By saying, hey, I think me and you should go get a meal. Hey, I want to take you out to this golf course. Hey, let me know if you're free this week. I'd love to take you out, blah, 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 right? And so this also parallels to why. So the reason I'm so unapologetic in asking you guys to buy my stuff is because I believe in it. I think it'll work. But more importantly is that if you guys don't get it, I'm not hurt by the rejection of that. You know, I've gotten to the point where it's like, I'm going to ask for the sale. Worst case scenario, you say, I can't afford it, I don't want to get it or whatever, but I'll keep doing the free stuff. Totally fine. But either way, I'm going to ask for the order. In the same way that you should be asking girls for dates. You know, whether you think they're going to say yes or not, whether you think you're going to be able to do a good job or say it the right way or whatever, you should be asking for dates. And what you'll find is you'll be surprised. Just like I get surprised, I go to my email box, I'm like, oh crap, like 3 people bought books today. Oh my God, somebody signed up for a program today. I didn't expect that. But I put out enough, hey, buy my stuff, inevitably somebody buys it. You put out enough, hey, go on a date with me, inevitably some girl's gonna be like, sure, why not? But you gotta ask, you gotta get out there. And just like sales, asking women out is a numbers game. You can't be like, no girls ever go out with me. Well, if I just asked you, how many girls did you ask out? Well, I mean, I asked out 1, and then this other girl I asked out, and that was it. You asked out 2 girls and you got rejected, so you stopped. Like, I tell you guys all the time, run into rejection. Like, you should be saying, my goal is to ask out 50 women, get rejected by 47, and get 3 dates. And you should make rejection part of the process of getting a date instead of running from rejection. You know? So just wanted to put that out. Anyway, with all that said, says, I would buy it, but my mother won't let me because she says it's a scam. You know what? Real talk. I'm gonna be real with you, okay? Because I think you're younger, like 14 or 15. I would say this. I would say, in terms of your mom, she has the absolute best intentions for you. Like, I used to be a guy, hey, like I said, back in the day, I was following guys like Doc Love and David D'Angelo. Doc Love has a book called The System. The System costs $99. And I was like, there's no way I'm getting that. And then I just kept reading all this. He put all these newsletters where it was just like every single newsletter was like hitting and hitting and hitting. And I was at the point where, like, in my journey, I was trying to find things that I found, like, I never understanding of stuff, right? So it was like, I'd be like, why do girls do this thing? He'd do a newsletter talking about that. Okay, well, why is it this girl said this thing but didn't this thing? He'd do a newsletter talking about that. These were all free newsletters. But I read so much of his free stuff that was hitting on what I was dealing with so much, I eventually bought the book. So I say this because I don't want you to buy my book if you are not fully assured, or that your mom's not fully assured that what I'm talking about is true. That's why I have hundreds of free videos that you can watch on my website right now. You can watch through all those stuff. The nice thing about the books is the books put it into like a sequence order that is designed to like really like basically take all the stuff I put together concepts and put it linear so it's more understandable in terms of like how things should work step by step. But like, yeah, I think you should realistically like watch all the free stuff. And then if you find that all the free stuff you've watched has gelled with you enough, then that's a different conversation to have where it's like, hey, look, I've seen all this guy's doing, and it seems like he really knows what he's talking about. Let's give it a shot. And my books cost like, what, 27, 37 something bucks. Like, it's not a lot per se. But again, I get your mom's skepticism. I do not fault her for that at all, because when I was going through my journey, I see guys, this guy's a program for like $100 something. This guy's blah, 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 blah. And yet I bought all those and they all helped me immensely. So, but it takes time. It takes time to build up to that. So that's why I have all this free stuff. So check out the free stuff. My free stuff is chock full of great advice. If you want an upper level of understanding and stuff that's going to be more cohesively sequenced, then I definitely recommend my books and my programs. But I got into this because at your age, I sucked at dating, and I wish I had people to guide me. So that's why I do free lives. That's why you can ask me questions here for free. That's why I have free videos, because this isn't just for me about the money, but I also believe that if I'm sequencing stuff and putting out stuff that's going to be life-changing, that deserves to be sold, you know? So you can go either route, but like, yeah, listen to your mom. That's the first authority. I am not, all right? This guy said here, this may be controversial, but when I stopped approaching American Black women, I stopped getting harsh rejections. Other cultures of women are polite with their rejection. I'm not sure what that says. What that says is you have not come into contact with enough Black women, because I will tell you, I am a guy that, I mean, obviously I'm Black. I grew up in a Black family. I went to predominantly white middle schools and high schools. And the rejections I got there were like not that great. And then I got to college. And because I'd gone to all these white schools, I said I wanted to, well, I didn't say. My grandma was a alumni of a historically Black college. And so they had a summer program where you could go there just to kind of test out the waters of a college, right? So I went there for a summer, and it was the first time, and I was, well, again, I'm getting to the point, right? Is that it was the first time I was around other Black people that were similar to my version of Black. Like, as you guys can see from these podcasts, I dress really nice. I talk kind of fast, but I talk very properly. I don't use a whole lot of slang. And I just thought, because when my mom was taking us to church, like we lived in a very nice, predominantly white neighborhood, but she would take us to church in the ghetto because that's where all the black churches were. And yeah, we got teased for being black. I was a little too light skinned, yada, yada, yada. And so initially but I've also realized like that was one version of black, but my whole family, my grandma was a teacher. I had a lawyer. I have Supreme Court justices in my family that were black. So I'm like, I know there's a version of black out there that gels with me. And so when I went to this historically black college, I was around black people that were similar to me. And I was like, I tested out for a summer and was like, oh, I need more of this. And I spent 5 years at a historically black college around a wide variety of black women that were well-to-do, not all well-to-do, but they were going for their education. They were going to make something of themselves. And I find being around those kind of black women makes it, I'm not gonna say easier, but they're a lot nicer in their rejections. They're a lot more open to different kinds of black guys to date. And post my college career, I've only had relationships with black women. So I say this because you being in Oakland or wherever you're at, like I get it, the kind of black people that you're currently around, it could be that's no pun intended, that's coloring your viewpoint of how black women are. And I'm here to tell you that the majority of them, that at least in my dating world, in my dating realm, have not been that way. Not that I haven't met a few that are like that, but that doesn't make me think, therefore, they're all like this. What that makes me think is this version of black's not for me, and I need to go someplace else where I can find the version of black woman that's going to work for me. And I'm around in those circles, so for me, they're easy to find. You might not be in the circles that they're easy to find, in which case I would say get out of geographically where you live and open yourself up to other cities, open yourself up to other different kinds of activities, other types of various clubs and organizations that have the kind of black women that would actually be ones you'd want to date. Because I can assure you, there are also white trash girls out there that I've seen that, will reject you in a heartbeat, that are on all kinds of drugs, that talk to you any kind of which way. Like those white women also exist. And I don't want you to think, I just don't like the idea of like black women being put into this corner of like, oh, all black women react to what's blah, blah. That's what's being shown on YouTube. That's what's being shown on TV. And that's therefore what gets propagandized. And it's not that those kind of women do not exist, but it's just that by thinking that, you're not taking into account that there are other versions of black women that exist. My mother was never ghetto. My grandma was never ghetto. I grew up around aunts and cousins, stuff like that were never ghetto. So I knew from the inside that there's a bunch of other versions out there because these ones in my family aren't like that. So I can see what the world's saying, but I can't see that and be like, but like these, then the people I grew up around are lying. And the women I went to school that I'm around are lying. And the women that I work in high organizations with are lying. They're all ghetto. Like that's not actually what's going on. But again, if you're only around that, I can see how you'd only see that, So yeah, so let's get on to, I want to really quickly get to the main topic I want to talk about. And so we're going to talk about the major talking mistake that usually turns women off. So I did a video where it was called "This Action Annoys All Women." And I talked about how a major action that most guys are doing in their conversation is interrupting women. Like women are trying to talk and then guys are just jumping in, right? So I did that video like years ago. It's only got like 148 views on it, but a woman commented on it recently and she left this comment. She said, "Thank you. As a woman, I can confirm that communicating with men is definitely annoying. I remember dating a guy who would talk a lot and I would wait until he stopped talking because I hate interrupting and I want the other person to know that I'm actively listening. But with this dude, 20 minutes would go by and he wouldn't stop talking. I once brought this up and he said he was waiting for me to interrupt. Interrupt? What happened to listening? I've experienced this over and over with many men. It's annoying as F. This happens way less with women." So because she pointed this out, it's partially addressing her, but also partially addressing you guys as well. Because this is the thing, right? She says, "I've experienced this over and over with many men," which means this is a habit that unbeknownst to you, you may also be doing. Now, this is important to point out because in that show, I talked about how, men are constantly interrupting women. This is a woman saying, I'm trying to sit there and listen to him, but at no time is he pausing to let me talk. At no time is he asking me questions to let me talk. What the heck's going on? And I find that very fascinating because as a guy that grew up around women, I learned how to communicate the way most women do, which is that in women's circles, when they're talking to each other, one woman talks, The other people attentively listen. At some point, that woman knows when it's her time to stop talking to allow somebody else to talk. So she'll stop, and then another woman will jump in, and they'll all listen to her. She'll talk a little bit. She knows when to stop talking to allow another person. So women's conversation tends to be like, we're talking, but we're talking because we want to give all of our attention to the person that's talking because we want to make sure that they're heard. But this other person, being a woman, knows that we all also want to talk. So she's going to know when to give up her time talking to allow us to talk also. So we all feel like we have an even level of talking going on, and nobody feels unheard or that they talk any less than somebody else, right? That's how women talk. How do guys talk? I found when I started trying to make more guy friends, the most annoying thing to me was that I would try to start talking and a guy would interrupt my story. I'd be getting out a thought and a guy would interject with his own thought. And I found this to be very, very annoying. But again, I didn't grow up around a lot of guys. So I'm just thinking they're being rude. And then I had to start studying male and female communication. And I realized, oh, this is just what guys do. Like guys are just naturally jumping in and talking over one another and whatever in conversation. And I find it frustrating, but like that seems to be the norm here. And you know me, when something happens like that, I want to know what's the cause behind that, right? So I did a deep dive. So I want to talk to you guys about why it is that guys typically have a method of talking in terms of interrupting that women find annoying, and then give you the knowledge of that so you'll know why not to do it, right? So let's talk about what the purpose is for communication amongst women and communication amongst men. So stereotypically, women are communicating and they're talking and they're doing what's called active listening. They're communicating with the intent of really hearing what the other person is saying, which means in order to hear them and fully take in what the other person is saying, they can't talk. They have to be knowledgeable. They have to be able to understand what this person is saying so they can possibly give their 2 cents about what this other person is saying. And then it's an even exchange, right? So that causes them to sit there and just listen. And when they're talking with other women, they know at some point this other woman's going to realize it's 2 of us here. She's going to stop and let me say some stuff and get my thoughts about it out. And it's going to be a great exchange, right? So that's the intent behind women's communication. But what is the intent behind men's communication? Well, here's the thing, guy, is that, and this is what I had to learn too, right? Is that men are communicating a couple of different things. For one, they're using communication as a means to show their dominance. They're using communication as a means to show their assertiveness. And they're using communication as a means to display facts, okay? So in terms of displaying communication as a means of dominance, usually in a conversation, if there's like 3 or 4 men talking, right? Each guy there is usually trying to take over the conversation. And they're doing it by, being extra loud, or if a guy's talking, the other guy's going to try to interject their point more as a means of showing that, hey, I'm the one that's leading this conversation, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is assertiveness. Each guy is trying to interject as a means of showing, hey, this is all subconscious stuff. Hey, I'm an assertive guy and I have a point. I'm going to just put it in there. I'm going to just talk about it. I don't need to wait for somebody to tell me I don't need to wait for somebody to let me get in there. I'm going to just let myself in, right? And then the third thing is facts. Each guy in the conversation is trying to show that they either have the same knowledge or more knowledge as the other guy in the conversation. This is why, if you've noticed amongst guys, let's say you're talking about something, right? Like I'll talk about Zelda. I recently beat Legend of Zelda, right? So I'd be like, yeah, so then I was playing Zelda and I found this treasure chest that had this secret sword in it that allowed me to do X, Y, and Z. Before I even finished, other guy, oh, that's awesome. Speaking of your thing, I also found that this other sword that's more powerful than the one you found is going to actually allow me to cause the wind to blow up and start fires and stuff. Then that's the other guy. Oh, that's awesome. Speaking of that flame, I did this other thing, blah, 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 blah. And it just goes back and forth about facts, right? So all these things translate to men are ultimately communicating as a means of trying to display their masculinity. Like you're trying to show dominance, which shows that you are powerful enough to control a situation. You're displaying assertiveness, which shows that you're willing to push in and get what you want. And you're showing facts, which means that you are a knowledgeable guy that has lots of facts that these other guys probably don't know. Or if you have a guy that's more knowledgeable, then you're going to sit there and try to get facts from him, but you're still going to be interrupting him in the process, asking questions or whatever, And so men and women are communicating for two completely different reasons, right? And this all goes back to these are things that we just learned over time. Women are socialized to really share the conversation more and to sit and listen, and men are encouraged to go after what they want, to be dominant, to be leading, and all these things correlate to how they also are in conversation, right? Now, neither of these things are good or bad, because amongst our own sexes, this is how we operate. You have to know how to operate in order to be most effective. So that's how you operate. So here's where the problem lies, right? Is that there's nothing wrong with these modes of conversation, except for because as kids, we're mostly probably going to be around our kind. So we start to pick up the habits of how our communication should be. So what happens when men are with men is that they learn over time, from young boys to manhood, that the way you communicate as a means of showing that you're interacting with a conversation is to constantly interrupt. Because if you're interrupting the conversation, you are taking part in it. You're fully showing that you're invested by actually interrupting amongst other men. And with women, you show you're being respectful and caring for the other person's thoughts by sitting there and listening. So here's where the clash happens. Man and women get together, right? So let's take her situation, right? She's on dates and she's sitting there and the guy starts talking. Now, the woman's sitting there thinking, okay, he's talking. This is great. I'm getting to learn more about him. But at some point, he's going to recognize that there's two people here and that I want to talk as well. So I'll just sit here and wait for him to stop talking so I can interject my thoughts. And 20 minutes later, he's still talking. And now she's like, he didn't stop. Oh, this guy only cares about himself. He's only thinking about what he wants, and his story is so interesting. He doesn't even care to get to know me. That's her experience. But what is the guy experiencing? Well, as a guy, you're experiencing the following, right? You're sitting there and you're talking and you're talking and you're talking. You're thinking in your head, man, I'm talking. I guess she likes what I'm saying because I'm interesting. But at some point, she probably has something to add to what I'm saying. So if she does have something interesting, she'll just start saying it. Like, I don't have to invite her into the conversation. She can just start talking, and I'll be fine. At the point that she starts talking, I'll be fine to just shut up while she starts talking. She'll talk for a little bit, and then at the point where I hear something that I can grab onto, I'll interrupt her and start talking, and that'll be the conversation. So this guy's talking for 20 minutes, not because he wants to talk for 20 minutes, but because in his head, he's thinking if she wants to contribute to the conversation, she knows to interrupt, right? And this is where the clash happens, because he's sitting there thinking, if she was interested, she'd interrupt, and I'd be happy to hear her. But if she doesn't interrupt, I'll just keep talking because she must think I'm just that fascinating. And the woman's sitting there thinking, he's not interested in me. He only cares about himself. This date's a dud. I'm going to go home and never contact him again because he doesn't know about me anyway. So what does he care? And then so many guys are like, and because I get these comments a lot from guys, we had such a great first date. I thought we really had a connection. But then when I asked her out again, she was too busy or said we didn't connect, but I thought we did. And guys are understanding that part of it could very well be that you had a good time because you thought that by her listening all the time that she was really into you. And in the process, she didn't get to have as good of a time because she didn't talk about herself. She didn't feel like she could interrupt you, so she didn't. And therefore, she had a bad time. And so this is where this happens, because unfortunately, there are women that you're losing simply because you're not aware that when you're talking nonstop, that you're thinking she's going to interrupt, and you're not aware that because of how she was grown up and raised, that she's not going to. She's looking for you to communicate in the way that she's used to with women, which is that you're going to be kind enough to eventually stop and ask her a question and let her talk. Especially girls that are the so-called nice girls, that so-called want allegedly nice guys. They're going to be the ones that are mostly going to do this. Like, the really, really nice, authentically nice girls that want a good guy are going to communicate just like this woman. They're going to sit there and be kind and patient and just wait for you with their batty eyes to just stop, to shut the heck up and let her talk. And she's not aware that you're thinking she can just interrupt at any time, because that doesn't feel comfortable for her. It does not feel comfortable for her to interrupt you, because in her world, it's very rude. Other women will chastise her for it and possibly banish her from the group for being too talky or thinking her ideas are so much better than mine and blah, 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 that she's not going to risk doing that on a date. So what she's going to do is do what she's been trained to do, which is to sit there and listen and wait for you to stop talking. And so I found it fascinating that she pointed out that guys, time and time again, do this on date after date. They get her on a date and they just talk. And she's like, why won't they stop? And so this is an example of, this is knowledge that you as a guy need to have in the back of your head. When you go out on dates and you start talking, you cannot expect her to interrupt you when you're talking, or to say, hey, could you ask me a question, blah, 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 because especially women that are really nice, aren't going to do this. What they're going to do is hope that you stop. So here's what I found worked for me going on dates. Again, the advantage of me growing up around women is that I got to see the pain in women's eyes of like, I really like this guy, but he just talks so much. It didn't ask me about me, and I got turned off, right? So now that you have this knowledge, when you go on dates, be mindful that for some of those initial dates, you're going to have to get her out of the habit of thinking that you just want to talk, or that you don't care about what she has to say. And that means you're going to have to go into these situations asking her questions. Yes, because I know it feels weird, guys, but of the two of you, you could stand to put the what's it called, like the olive branch forward early by talking less for one and asking her questions. So here's how I work my program, right? For one, on dates, I found that I keep my talking rate when I'm talking about myself to no longer than 45 seconds. If she asks me about myself, I will talk for a maximum of 45 seconds before I turn it around and ask her a question or stop and pause to let her interject. All right. I found keeping that 45-second ratio allows me to not look like I'm taking over the conversation. And I found just by that exercise alone, women typically appreciate the fact that I'm not overtaking the conversation, because they want to hear about me, but they don't want to have me taking over the entire conversation, right? So then the second part is you have to be mindful that amongst men, I find that when men talk with each other, they don't usually ask other guys questions. Like, because guys just somehow know to continue a conversation. Like if I'm talking with a buddy of mine, right? If I'm talking about, let's say I'm talking about, go back to Zelda, right? If I just say like, yeah, man, like that I played Zelda, man, it was really hard trying to beat Ganon. The other guy just knows to continue the conversation. Yeah, man, I had a hard time too, blah, 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 blah. I didn't have to say, man, I had a hard time fighting Ganon. Did you have a hard time fighting Ganon? Like, I don't have to ask that question to guys. It's implied. But for women, I find that you just ending a sentence isn't going to always make her think that you want her to now talk. So that means you're going to say things like, I had a hard time beating Ganon, but what do you think? Was it hard for you to beat Ganon? Or let's not use the video game example, right? You're on a date. She asks you about your job. Man, I work at a call center. I work at a call center, and it's an okay job. It's just, a lot of people, I call them, some people aren't home, some people hang up on me. Like, it's a really, really hard job. Now with a guy, you could just stop right there, right? And he would just take the conversation. Can't do that. So you go back to, yeah, it's a really hard job. But what about your job? Like, do you like your job? Do you have a good time at your job? Like, you have to legitimately say your thing about yourself and then ask her a question, because that's going to let her know, oh, it's my turn to talk. And it's going to make her feel like, oh my God, he actually wants to get to know me. Like he's legitimately asking me questions about myself, which means that he wants to get to know me. He's not just, I don't have to worry about if I say a thing, does he care or not? Because by you asking the question, it's going to make her feel as though you actually want to get to know the answer. Versus if you do like we do with guys, oh, y'all go to call center and it's just kind of weird sometimes. Like that ending right there is going to make her think, so do I continue the conversation? Does he want me to talk about him some more or do a follow-up question to what he said? Or does he want me to talk about me? Like, I don't know where to go here. So your job in the conversation is to basically guide her where you want it to go by asking her questions, if talking about yourself, and then ask a follow-up question with that. Or when she talks about herself, you ask her a follow-up question to what she said. But yeah, you want to keep your talking to 45 seconds, and you want to be mindful that she is not going to interrupt you, guy. Like she's not. Like most women, if they're nice and cordial, as much as you're thinking, I could just be able to say a thing, she could just interrupt, it's not going to happen. So you could be mad about that and be like, she should communicate like me and it not happen. Or you can say, you know what, olive branch. I'm going to start asking questions, and I'm going to keep my answers a little bit shorter than I normally would. But I'm going to make her feel like she's part of this conversation. Because I'm telling you guys, some of you guys are losing women simply because you're going nonstop talking, and you're doing it thinking, hey, I want to give this girl my life story. I want her to know all about me, and this is the best way to do it. And hopefully she'll ask follow-ups, but I'm going to just keep talking and talking and talking, and you're not seeing anything wrong with it. And women aren't going to tell you that something's wrong. All they're going to think is, this guy, I'm judging him right now because he's not letting me talk. He's still talking. It's really rude. Oh my God, I feel some kind of way. What's this about? And a lot of times, again, I tell you guys, show up the show. I study this stuff So that's why I know this. Most women are not studying what attracts them and what doesn't attract them. All they know is that you do a thing as a guy, they feel the ick, and then they go away. So they're not going to be aware of like, why is it that this guy won't stop talking? They're not researching, oh, guys talk a lot because that's how they talk amongst guys, so I need to understand that. All they're going to know is, I'm coming to this date. I thought I'd be having a good time. He's talking all about himself. He's not asking me any questions, and I don't know why, and I'm out. And so I don't want you to be out. I want you to understand what women are going through and understand that when they're not interrupting you, that it's not because they're not interested in your conversations, because they're hoping that you as the guy are going to ask them questions, which will let them know that they'll let them feel as though you want to actually get to know them. All right. So do that. That's a simple note. Just follow what I just said. And then hopefully if you come across this woman, you'll be able to give her a good dating experience, you know? So hopefully guys, this helps you out. All right. Well, guys, I think that's mostly it for today. Let me see if there's anything else I want to cover here that I haven't talked about yet. We did a few of these. I'm going to be doing a show. There was a show I did where I talked about a texting situation that this girl went through, and like the horror story of her, the guy responding to her. And I had a lot of like surprisingly negative comments from guys on that about like, well, she should have just blocked his number and she blah, 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 blah. So I've mentioned a few times on the show about a friend of mine that went through a situation where she tried to block a guy that she went out with, and he spent like months on end trying to like stalk her. I'm actually interviewing her. So next week, I'll be putting up a video talking about that full situation, okay? Because I need you guys to really get the idea that women are trying to do things to gently let guys down, and some of those guys just aren't responding in a way that's helpful to the situation, you know? So question down here from the chat. This guy asked a question. He said, not calling it a date is probably a turnoff too, right? I have asked out an acquaintance next week. She said she'll let me know by tomorrow. I am thinking of calling it a date once she confirms. Oh, God. Oh, dear Lord. Okay. So, one, yes. If she says, let's go out, you say, great, it's a date. I'll pick you up at such a time, whatever, right? In my history of dating, I have found that when I ask a woman out on a date and her response is, I'll let you know at this other time, it usually means she's trying to spend a day or two figuring out how to politely reject you without hurting your feelings or ruining the friendship. Because I'm only interested in dating women that either have a high interest or at the very start have a high enough interest to pique the curiosity to where they're like, yeah, let's do it. And so when women say to you, well, it sounds great, let me think about it by tomorrow. If we're coming from the world of sales, if I'm going in front of a prospect and I say, hey, so I'm showing you the product and I'm showing you all the ins and outs of it and how it works, I'm giving you the price tag, do you want to buy today? If their response is, it sounds great, you know what? I'll let you know by tomorrow. My first thought is like, well, what other information do you need? I've literally given you all the information here. You can ask me questions right now, like what's actually holding you back? Oh, I'll let you know about it tomorrow. That prospect usually is not buying the product. So I'm saying this because I want you to be prepared for, oh, I can't make it. Oh, I'm busy. And here's the tell, right? If she says, I can't make the date, but she gives a counter offer, then you're good. So she says, oh, I can't make it whatever day you propose, but I can make it on Sunday. Then we'll consider that a hell yes, because she's still saying, I can do the date, just not the date that you said, but I'm going to give you a definitive day that it works on, then it's good. If she just says, oh, I'm sorry, I can't make it, and doesn't give you a counter offer, that is her womanese subtle way of saying, I really don't want to go out with you. I don't want to ruin the friendship. Please don't ask me again, and don't make me explain myself. So just be prepared for that. Like, again, this goes back to, this is why I tell you, if you understand women a lot better, then the things that they do, you'll see coming a mile away and you'll know what they mean. And I find that the more I understand what's going on, the less hurt I am by it. So let's say I'm in your shoes, right? If she says to me, oh, I'll let you know by tomorrow, and then I call the next day, oh, she hurt me, or she says, oh, I can't make the day, blah, 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 blah. I'd be like, but then why she make me wait? Oh, blah, 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 this and that. Oh my God. I'd be frustrated and butthurt. But if I know, hey, anytime a woman says, I'll let you know by tomorrow, it means probably no, I just think, oh, okay, it's probably a no. So if I talk to her tomorrow and she says yes, okay, great. I was wrong. If she says, oh, I can't make it. Oh, I knew she was going to say that. I already expected it. Okay, great. Ask somebody else. Like, because I know that it won't hurt my feelings if she says yes or no. I just know, okay, maybe she's a little uncomfortable because we're acquaintances and we're in the same friend group, so whatever. So you know what? It is what it is, you know? But I just say, always be prepared. I'm always prepared for the no. If I get the yes, great. If I get the no, great. Again, I'm not disturbed by either one of these, all right? But yeah, that is full-on BS women speak for. I'm trying to figure out the nicest way to reject him. And you'll be able to tell also because if she said she'll let you know by tomorrow, do this. She said she'll let you know, right? So you do not contact her to ask her, hey, did you say about the date? Like, don't reach out to her. Like, just let your phone sit and see if she actually gets back to you, because we want to see if she's a woman of her word. She said she'll let you know, so she should be reaching out to you to say, hey, I thought about it and no, or hey, I thought about it and I'm busy, or hey, I thought about it and yes. But you let her reach out, because if you reach out, now you're simping. Now you're trying to chase after the date that you don't think you're going to get, right? And so she said she's going to reach out, see if she's a woman of her word. If she doesn't reach out, you know she's a liar, and you don't want to date her anyway. Real talk. Question in here from the chat. It says, bro, how do I get hell yes women? Somebody said, 6 foot tall, rich and buff. And somebody said, I'm 5'4", probably not going to grow, but I've been told I'm muscular like my whole life. Same with funny and ugly. So you're a shorter guy. And so I'm going to be real with you. You can still get women. I know you thought you were going to go the other way, right? Here's the thing. My brother has a friend he's had since elementary school. And not only is he like 5'3", 5'4", he also is a ballet enthusiast. Like, he danced in ballet. He was in the Nutcracker for like some prestigious company in New York. He now teaches ballet. Like, ballet's been his whole life. So he's a short height, and he's doing what most people consider a girly activity. And this dude has dated some of the finest women I have ever seen in my freaking life. But why is that? Because he doesn't dwell on the short thing. Here's the thing. We're not going to even act like you're not at a disadvantage. When you first go up to women, they're going to see them and all probably think automatically like, probably not my type, right? If you have the personality, if you know how to make women feel certain things in conversations, you know how to make them laugh, you know how to, more importantly, act like you're getting to know more about them and what they, and you know, get to really like dig into their story and stuff like that, then you will find that it's not that women will completely overlook it, but it's that they will start to see that being less of a barrier to entry, you know? So this goes back to, it really does depend on what you bring to the table and how you're viewing the situation. Because women are ultimately going to go off your lead. So if you're short and you think, I'm short so I can't get women, everything in your body is going to project it out there. I'm short and I don't deserve women. Versus, yeah, I'm short, but I can handle you in other ways. And if I'm short, my head's always in the right place. That kind of cocky attitude will make women be like, oh, shoot, he's bold with it. And that'll supersede their functioning like, oh, but he's not 6 foot. Oh, but he made me feel a thing. I got to fight. Like, so it's not that you won't have struggles, but like, everybody's got struggles. We could argue that, hey, as a black dude on dating apps, I'm like low man on the totem pole, and I still manage to date really hot chicks off online dating. If I were to listen to statistics, I would never try. So it's not that you don't listen to statistics, it's that you take that and say, okay, it just means I got to work on other areas that are going to allow me to shine better than my height, because the height's not going to do it for me, you know? So you got to look at stuff like that. Okay, so I think I got one more thing on here I wanted to read through. That one's long. I'll say that for another time. So this guy says sometimes. Okay, so yeah, this is just I like to add this note on here. This is just a general note in general. So I want to give a hot take here. So this person left a comment under my texting horror stories video, the one where about the guy that was like pestering the girl with all the mean texts, right? And he said that video was glorious. And I love the last text exchange where she was going on often about why it is that she didn't like him. One of the things that she said was that he was using so many manosphere talking points that, oh my God, like it was just after 15 minutes, I wanted to leave. So he said, I have to admit, there have been times I've been on dates with women where they've shown all the outward signs only to tell me later that they're not interested. At times, I've asked if there was any feedback they had for me. I think given the bridge is burned, why not? And I've done that too. I've asked girls, hey, so what can I do better on dates? I could be better in the next relationship, yada, yada, yada. Like, and some of those things are painful to hear, but they really do help in terms of your growth, which is why you have to be open to realistic criticism, like criticism that's going to actually help you. Like a girl just saying you're a B or you're whatever, that's not helpful. Her saying like, hey, you talk a lot, stop it, or hey, you chew with your mouth open. Take those notes. They can help you out. He says, but this guy in the scenario is the classic nice guy. I know in my younger years, I made the mistake of using pickup artist language on dates and inviting women into my views on evolutionary theories of attraction, like alpha males and whatnot. And there wasn't a single woman who ever dug that crap. Men who indulge manosphere talking points scare the crap out of women, not because some of it isn't true, but because they naturally conflate it with all the toxic BS out there. And who could blame them? The problem was you shared what you know with women. So he said that comment, and then this other guy made this comment to that guy saying the problem was you shared what you know with women. And women hate knowing they are not unique or special, that they are just basic like everybody else. Plus, if you look at what works on women versus what they say they hate, it's often the same thing. Why would you even reveal you know this stuff? Just apply it. So I mentioned this on another show briefly, but basically, this idea of like, hey, and hey, here's the thing. When I started learning this stuff, I wanted to talk about this stuff with everybody. Like I wanted to go out there, oh my God, I finally figured out why women talk this way and why they do this thing and why they fall for bad boys, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to talk with that about men, and I wanted to talk to all that stuff with women. And what I found is that women unequivocally do not want to hear this stuff. Now, some women, admittedly, do get to the point where they're fine with like talking about it. And there are women in this space that like talk about men's issues and try to help other women understand men. But the difference is women that listening to that are hearing it from a woman say it, so it's easier to digest. But here's why it's hard coming from men, because all women are going to hear is, oh my God, this man is trying to learn how to manipulate women because he's desperate and he can't get women on his being his true self. So he's got to learn some tricks and tactics in order to do that. Now, all I teach you guys on here, I teach you guys about like, conversation things and like, but what I mostly teach you guys is, why it is that when you do action A, the result's going to be action B from women. Like I say for you guys, for example, the reason if you don't text them all the time, the result is they want to hear from you more, or they'll come to you. Or if you don't try to see her all the time, the result is she's going to build feelings for you quicker. Like I want you to get an understanding of why certain actions are better than others in order for you to make the decision for yourself about what you want to do. And it's funny because like I had somebody, I always tell guys like, I say, you, as much as I want you guys to listen to my stuff and buy my stuff, ultimately, you have your own journey. Like everything I give you guys is based on my personal journey of dating. I believe the stuff that I'm saying is right. It has worked for me. It has been effective for me, right? I wouldn't expect you to just blindly assume that what I'm saying is right and then have it work for you. I want you all to say, look, how you've been dating up to this point is working a certain way or has not been working a certain way, right? So I found these are things that work for me. They may not work for you. You could try out the texting thing and be like, you know what? I met a girl that I text every single day and we ended up dating for 4 or 5 years. So you're wrong, Harry. It doesn't work. That's your journey. That's totally fine. I'm just telling you guys what has worked for me. And then if it happens to work for you, that is fantastic. But I wholeheartedly want you guys to go out there and listen to my stuff and actually try it out before you take what I say as gospel. Because I can be wrong. Hey, I can be wrong on the texting thing. I can be wrong on a plethora of other things that I talk about. Like, you guys need to test this out for yourself. I don't think I'm infallible in terms of the advice that I give. But to that point, when you go out there and tell women this stuff, here's the thing. I mean this with sincerity, and I mean this in a not mean way, right? I pretty much view all women as the same, right? And I say that all women are the same in that they all think and feel as though they're different. And when you go to a person that wants to feel like they're not the same as everybody else and that is different from everybody else and tell them that, oh, I can do this one thing and get all the women, the result is going to be, that's not me. I don't fall for that. That's, like I said earlier, that's bad advice. That wouldn't work on me. How dare you? Because women don't want to feel like they're getting manipulated. And women don't like the idea that you could potentially be doing stuff to them that's going to make them think and do things that they wouldn't normally do, right? But here's the thing, guy, like men have that too. Like men have things that we don't want to get called out for. And so I don't take any harm in like, oh, I can't talk to women about certain manosphere things or about red pill things or yada, 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 because it's like, ultimately, if they want to feel like they are different. And there's a reason for that, because you got to think about in a woman's life, right? She's trying to find a guy that is going to be all in on her and take care of her and do things only for her and their family and nobody else's, right? And so in their head, if you view every single woman as the same, then why would it matter if you do stuff for her that you would easily do for another woman, right? That's their thought process. So if you're given the impression that you're going to treat all women the same, it doesn't make her feel like you're going to treat her any special or give her extra protections or give her extra whatever when you get into a relationship with her. And so if you come at the thought from that perspective, then you better understand why she doesn't want to hear about like, oh, guys just say if they do this thing, blah, blah, even if it'll work. Like, again, the number of women I've come to and said, hey, if I wait 4 days to text you, oh, no, that wouldn't me. I'd never fall for it. Every woman that I've dated, every woman that I've gotten in a relationship with across the board, that's worked on. But if I were to ask them directly when I first started dating them, hey, so I've had a great time on this date, so I'm not going to call you for 4 days. Is that cool? They'd all be like, no, don't do that. You're playing games. Okay, I just won't tell them about it, but it works. And to the other point too, I stress that. I also stress the all women are the same narrative because I don't want you as a guy putting any woman on a pedestal ever, because you come to women and you're looking at how attractive they are and how hot they are, and you're thinking, oh my God, she's different. Oh my God, I feel things. Oh my God, blah, blah. And I'm assuring you, most women in terms of attraction need to go through the same process, and most women on a variety of different levels act the same. I'll give you an example, right? This is just an example that I found because I'm less judgmental of women. I have found that women are willing to be really open with me in terms of things they've done in their past, in terms of things that they've gone through with other guys, even girls that I've dated have told me that stuff, right? So here's the thing. Here's a brief example, right? I found that almost all women have at a minimum of one major life secret that they don't tell anybody for fear of judgment. And it could be something as like, like she hooked up with 5 or 6 guys at one time in college, or she robbed the bank one time, or she stole money from this and that. Like every woman, the most high value Christian woman you could think of, down to like a goth chick, down to like the prostitutious woman, down to like the also angelical, would never harm a fly woman. All women somewhere in their life have done, said, reacted in some way that they keep to themselves, because they know that you probably can't handle it. And you're thinking, but I can totally handle it. You can't. Like, again, I tend to be, when women tell me stuff, my reaction, I stay nonchalant. They'll tell me some stuff like, oh, that happened? Oh, interesting. In my head, I'm like, oh my freaking God. But I've learned, if you want people to tell you stuff, you got to be even keel when they tell you some stuff, even if it's something you wouldn't agree with, even if it's something that's kind of jarring, even if it's something that shakes the core of who you viewed them as a person. But this is why I don't put women on pedestals, because I know that all women probably have at least 1 or 2 stories in their arsenal about some stuff that they did. Or I've had a lot of women tell me that they've done hookup things for a wide variety of people, I'll say, that, again, I didn't ask that. They just told me, but it's like, oh crap, what? Like, so because I've had that happen enough times, I don't judge women on that. But I know that across the board, most women have that. So that's just a small example. So I said this to say, if you treat every woman like in the beginning, like they're the exact same, you can't put them on a pedestal. You can't obsess over any particular woman, because you're like, whether she's the hottest of hot women or just average to mid, you're going to be like, but what's behind the looks? What's behind what story do I not yet know yet? And then also you'll also find that whether she's a highly attractive 10 or lowly level bottom dweller or somewhere in between, that in terms of your conversation with them, in terms of the level of patience you need to have with them, in terms of them needing a 2 to 3 month journey to feel attraction, all the same. And if you go into the dating game knowing that, then when you learn a blueprint that's designed to help you get through the dating game to where you go from first meeting them to get into a relationship, you'll find that it all works the same. Like my introvert dating success program, it's literally a step-by-step program that's designed to walk you through the dating process. So that way, in the span of 3 months, you will attract this woman in a natural way and get her to a relationship. And I put the program together because after like the 3rd woman that this worked on, I was like, oh, so this is a system that just across the board just works to attract women into a relationship. So anytime I'm in a relationship, I'm like, this is fantastic. But I know if I lose a woman, I have a system already in place to get the next woman. So therefore, I don't have to walk through life in fear of like, I'll never find somebody. I can find somebody. If the person I'm with that I care about so immensely dies, I can go out there and find somebody tomorrow, because I have a system that's in place that I've seen work effectively on all women. And because I don't give any levels of like, this one's going to be more high level than this one, and this one's going to fall for this, but nothing one over here, then it makes my dating life immensely easier having a system in place to do that. Now, again, you can check that out at the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, because yes, I'm going to ask you for the order, but yeah, check out the program. But the point is that, yeah, if you treat them all the same in the beginning, you can't put them on a pedestal, you can't get nervous, you can't get anxious because you're like, I already know what to do for any woman. And ideally, that will help you to narrow down to the women that are sane and good and lovely and kind and caring and all that stuff. And it also helps you weed out the women that are not great, because the process is the process. It's going to work great on women that are sane, and women that aren't so sane or that are overly anxious or that are impatient, it won't work on. And that's good, because you need something in place that's going to help you weed out women. And I think there's not enough guys out there that are doing things to try to get rid of women early on, because we're such in a lack of abundance. We're thinking, I can only get this woman, so I got to do everything right. And it's like, what about testing to see if she does stuff wrong? Ever think about that? Like, that women can actually be bad partners, and that if they're argumentative, if they're not patient, if they're yelling at you for not texting after 4 days, that they're maybe not the best partner, because I found that out. And so I actually want stuff in place that's going to help me get rid of women and only keep around the ones that are sane and lovely, you know? Anyway, guys, Psychack says the same thing. He says the reason the girl you like doesn't like you is because you treat them special. Yeah, it really is like, here's the thing. It's not that women don't want to be treated special. It's that subconsciously women want to earn that. And when guys give of themselves and overextend themselves too early on, it rings an alarm system in a woman's head. It's like, what's going on? He's doing too much too soon. Why is he trying to do all this stuff for me? And it makes them start thinking negative things. So guys need to understand that, yes, you want to treat your girlfriend special. The woman you're dating is going through a 3-month process that's basically a research project for you to determine if she's worth you treating her special. And the nice thing is, sane women understand that process and will not get hurt for you not bringing out the whole parade when you first start dating her. The ones that aren't so sane and that aren't so patient, it'll get rid of them. Good. You know? Anyway, guys, that's all I have time for today. Thank you so much for checking out this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. We do a live show typically every Tuesday. I lost my voice yesterday, so I did it today. But hopefully you guys got a lot out of it. For more of these shows, go to my YouTube channel. I got over like 700 videos at this point. So for those of you that aren't yet able to buy my stuff, the free stuff is also fantastically great, and you'll learn a lot. But if you want to get to that next level, then I definitely recommend checking out one of my books, programs, stuff that's going to really help you elevate to get the women that you truly want in a sequenced manner. You know what I mean? Also go there, check out my album. My Kevin Samuels Was Right. You can literally check out my Kevin Samuels Was Right album for free. Like, you can stream it for free by going to the website, clicking on the link. It'll take you to my Bandcamp page, where you can actually like listen to the whole album for free, or rewind to the front of this video cast and listen to it for the first, like, I think 4 of the songs off the album are at the front of this broadcast. If you like those songs, you like the whole album. But anyway, that's all I got for today, guys. Thanks for checking that out. I'm Harry Wilmington, and I will catch you all on the next show. Peace.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high